The Coach and the Casual here, and our Miami edition continues as we interview some fighters for the BKFC February 2nd card here in Miami, Florida at the Hard Rock Cafe. We have undefeated 2-0 Christine Vicens. Let's get into this. How was the pronunciation?
Oh, man.
Vicens, was
I'll tell you what, that is the first time, I mean, that was our second take, but that was the first time that Ramsey's got the name right.
Oh,
close.
Close enough.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's good.
Say it once for our audience. You say it for us. Yeah, you tell us, you pronounce your name.
All the Spanish speakers are shaking their heads over there like, that wasn't even close.
It's Christine Vicens.
Vicens. The thing is, I feel like I'm saying the exact same thing, but I'm sure it's like way off. It's like in the Charlie Brown, like his parents are just womp, womp, womp.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they hear normal stuff.
Well, it's funny because like we've been here, Miami, and it's a very Spanish-speaking place, and everyone just speaks Spanish to you like off the bat, and I'm like, oh, all right, I'm not in Utah anymore.
But I feel like because I'm from California originally, and so I used to work construction, and I'd be like at the gas station. I'd be, I'm quarter Mexican, but I don't speak any Spanish, only high school Spanish. And they'd start yelling at me in Spanish. I'd be like, I don't know what you're saying. Are you from here originally? Been here your whole life? Or?
Born and raised in Miami. Both my parents are Cuban.
Oh, so your Spanish is impeccable.
Yeah, I was actually the only American in ESOL.
Okay.
I was in English as a second language, but I was born in Miami.
So
my parents didn't speak any.
And your parents are migrants?
Yes.
So my wife, her name's Andrea. Her parents are both immigrants as well. And it was very interesting for her growing up. It almost was a tough thing for her, because she speaks Spanish fluently, of course, but she grew up speaking English. And there's almost a language barrier, cultural difference with her own mom, even though she's so close. Do you feel like you grew up with that because you grew up as an American when they grew up as immigrants, or they came in as immigrants?
I mean, as far as like the cultural aspect, I was very much Cuban.
Yeah.
The only issues I had is like my dad not being able to speak English, wanting us to constantly speak Spanish, and naturally, when I had the English language down packed, I wanted to speak English.
Yeah.
That's what I spoke in school.
Yeah.
And he would be like, "Chris, me estás hablando en chino? You're speaking in Chinese to me." So I'd have to like quickly, go back to Spanish. So that was the only thing. He constantly wanted to speak in Spanish. 100%.
You know what I've found a lot, just because we talk with a lot of fighters and everything, is coming from areas of struggle or different circumstances that kind of they fight from a young age. Do you feel like having immigrant parents? What was it like for you growing up? Were you in the struggle? What do you think was part of your childhood that eventually drove you to fighting?
I think definitely I've always had the fighter's heart. I've always had that ambition to just be better, do better. My dad came in Mariel in the 80s, like Scarface style.
Yeah.
Very hard worker, inventing, that's what Cubans do. They have to hustle, invent, come up with something. So I saw that in them. My mom also had a very difficult life, so just seeing the fighters that they were, really just engraved that into me, and that's where I think the foundation started, of just like never quitting, always being resilient and pushing forward.
Well, you said MMA is your main background, but you've only fought kickboxing, boxing, and bare knuckle?
Yeah.
Okay, and what got you into MMA? Like day one, did you just walk into a gym? Like what happened?
I was in the university. I must have been about 20 years old.
That's old to be starting.
It is. I started late. I had never even worked out before.
Wow.
Yeah, I just started working out like at 19, 20 years old.
Wild freak.
I still haven't started working out.
Yeah, I train Kyle, but he shows up to never work out. Right?
That's why I fight.
Yeah, he's all. So you, at 20, you're in college?
Yeah, and I wanted to get fit, start doing something. So across the street is a Freestyle Fighting Academy, FFA. It's the MMA gym. And they
Shout out Freestyle Fighting Academy.
Yes.
Located where?
It's right by the university in Westchester.
Okay.
By FIU.
Yeah,
across
beautiful.
the street.
Beautiful.
It's a huge gym, at a shopping center. And they had a women's boot camp program. And within that program, being that it was inside of a martial art gym, they had a great kickboxing program, like cardio kickboxing program.
Yeah.
So I did that to just get in shape, you know. And I grew up boxing. I'm Cuban, you know. Like that's the only sport I ever watched or ever cared for was boxing.
Yeah.
I didn't care about anything else.
What about baseball? No baseball?
Baseball. That's more Dominican.
No, I mean the Cubans watch a lot of baseball, but in my household it was boxing.
Boxing, yeah.
So and I used to love like the Van Damme movies and
Oh yeah, Bloodsport, man, that was it.
So yeah, you know, I went into that kickboxing program. It was more like just for fun, but I really enjoyed it. And then I said I want to learn self-defense, so I jumped over into the actual like martial art training program within that same location, and I was really good at it.
And your coach?
Yeah, you know, with Coach Edgard, Coach Master Marcos. Great coaches. They started teaching me kickboxing, and I really enjoyed it. And I think one day they were just like, "Hey, you want to fight? There's like a local event," and I was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?"
Really?
Okay, I'll tell you. How old were you at that point?
It's been like 20, 21.
Here's the thing. It's crazy to me that you were just like, okay, cool, because I've been training for a little bit now, only jiu-jitsu and some very few sparring days and things like striking. And people be like, hey, you want to fight? I'm like, oh, hell no.
Yeah.
I don't want to fight. Especially, I mean, you're talking about kickboxing. My biggest reason I don't want to fight is because I don't want anybody to kick me in the head.
Yeah.
And you were just like, cool, yeah, let's do it, huh?
Something about me, I'm super impulsive. I don't think things through before doing
Great fighters. That makes a great fighter.
So I'm just like, let's do it.
All fighters we know are just terrible impulse control.
Yeah, that's literally one of the kids earlier. He was talking on the card too, and he's like, Justin Ibarra, that's butchered that one too. But he literally was telling us like we thought he was like this calm kid, relaxed, and we're like, so you're so calm? He's like, no, bro. He's like, I'm wild. I do this and that. We're like, okay, well, you're a fighter, you know.
Yeah, it's so in you.
wild.
So tell us about that first fight. Did you get kicked in the head?
No, I did not. But I got teeped in the stomach, and it was horrible because I lost my balance and I tripped, and I was so mad that I tripped, you know, like in front of everybody.
Yeah.
But it was like I lost that fight, but it was so much fun.
Was it amateur?
Yeah, it was amateur.
Was your parents there?
Yes, everybody was there.
Dude, I've got 2 daughters and a son, but I don't know if I can watch my little girl get kicked. I'd be like,
Oh, my mom, she was all terrified.
What about your dad? Did he love it?
No, my dad thinks it's cool.
Yeah.
Well, do you feel like from now that you're the inside, it's a lot less dangerous than you would say, like from looking on the outside, or do you feel like it's more dangerous now that you've been in it?
No, you know, I don't think it's as dangerous. I think on the outside, it's a little bit scarier. Once you do it, I mean, I've been doing it now for a long time, you know, 20 years. I can't say I've ever been like seriously hurt. It's as long as you know what you're doing, you know, and you're careful and you're training smart.
I don't know. I've got a couple theories here personally. One, you know, before I started training, I used to think I was a very casual fan. I thought I was this tough guy. Like, if you want to fight, let's fight.
I'm 250.
Yeah.
I can beat you up.
But then the second that I went into an MMA gym, I had a 145er choke me out. And I'm like, well, that sucked.
135er.
Yeah, 135.
He's 135.
But he was looking beefy that day.
Yeah. He was thick.
The big thing for me is now, after training some, I actually want to fight people outside less because I know the consequences of fighting. It seems more dangerous to me because you realize there's such levels to this. You run up into somebody that, I mean, you're less worried about. You've been fighting for so long. But I'm out there, I'm like, ooh, that's worrisome. The other big thing, though, is that you guys are both talking about, well, it's less dangerous, right? I mean, than it looks outside. But that's the same as like a person who does a job every day that it's like a nurse. All nurses, if you ever ask them, how do you like your job? Oh, I hated this. Then somebody says, I'm thinking about becoming a nurse. You're like, you should do it. I love it. It's amazing. It's not terrible at all.
Yeah.
There's no way you can convince me that getting punched in the face or kicked in the stomach is like, oh, it wasn't that bad. It's cool. Good work.
I don't think it's that bad. What do you think about getting kicked in the stomach the first time it happened in a real fight? Because, you know, sparring getting kicked is one thing, but fight kick is different, right?
Yeah, I mean, it just sucked because I wasn't expecting it, and it made me slip, lose my balance, you know, but it was all right. I was, you know, it's part of it. It's part of the game. I learned how to defend the teeps after that. I can tell you that much.
You never got teeped again.
Yeah.
So what made you transition?
You never got what?
Teeped. The front kick.
The front kick.
Teeped.
That's what it's called.
Why is it called teeped?
Teep. It's just
Teep? T-E-E-P?
Thai. It's a Thai kick.
Teeped.
It's a teep. You didn't know that?
No, I never heard that.
No, you learned, how did you not know
my
that?
coach is terrible. My coach is Ramsey. I don't learn
He's
anything.
the worst student I've ever had. No joke.
I just learned about capybara from...
Capoeira.
Capoeira, I did that.
Yeah, capybara.
Oh, you did capoeira?
For some time, yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
Capybara's an animal.
He's casual. He doesn't know anything about it. But then, so like you're fighting, and then what brought about the BKFC?
Okay, so after my kickboxing fight, I got presented with an opportunity to do National Golden Glove. Right? They're like, I guess, they say, hey, Christy, you're pretty good at your boxing. You want to do Golden Glove? I did that. I took home the championship for the National Golden Glove.
Is this the Golden Glove?
This is it's not the official one, obviously, but it's just
it's a replica.
Yeah, it's a memoir for me of that.
Love that.
And I realized, like, my boxing was probably my strongest suit,
More than your kicks and
kicks.
Like you're better at defending punches.
Yeah, I was better at my punches for sure.
Than kicking. Cool.
Yeah. So fast forward, just before I debuted in BKFC, I was trying to get an amateur MMA fight.
Yeah.
I was trying to get my first MMA fight. I was training with Coach Edgar. We were training hard. It was probably like a year of training, and I couldn't get an opponent because they would hear about all my boxing experience. I was Golden Glove. I had 15, 20 years of experience in striking, although I was still amateur because, life happened. I have 2 young boys. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah. So there was a lot of in-between stuff. So I wasn't like an active fighter. So I had a hard time getting a matchup for that amateur MMA fight. And then my manager came and said, hey, you want to just go pro and do BK bare knuckle? And of course, because I'm impulsive, I was like, sure, why not? Let's do it.
You're a wild one. I can't believe
Holy
this.
crap. You're wild, dude.
I just got to imagine you're like, hey, you want to go skydiving? We're not going to use parachutes and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
We have the special suit, and you land in water. I'll try.
Sure.
I'm a little bit less impulsive and crazy after having kids. That changes everything.
So I got to imagine,
Me too. I was very crazy, impulsive. And now that I'm a dad, I'm a lot calmer.
Yeah.
But I'm still crazy. I mean, right? You still got that.
Yeah, it's still there.
What does your husband do for you? Is he a fighter?
No, he's not. He's a school teacher.
Oh, awesome.
I gotta imagine my wife comes home who was a school teacher, says, I'm gonna do bare knuckle. I'm like, what? What was that conversation like?
No, well, he's always been super supportive. When we met, I was training and fighting. He knows this is my life. So he was like, are you, he just asked me the questions, are you sure? It could be dangerous, yada, yada. But once he knows that when I have my mind set on something, like, forget it.
Like most husbands out there.
Yeah, he's super supportive.
Yeah,
he's super supportive.
You have to be supportive of your wife. You don't have a choice, like, right?
Is your husband pretty good at watching his tone around you, though, lest he catch a beauty for you?
Yeah.
Hey,
shut up.
Hey, who's doing the dishes today?
I mean, you'd be surprised. I'm not aggressive. I've never been in a fight in my life other than the sport. Never in school.
But it's the underlying threat of violence that makes your husband behave himself all the time.
Knowing that I can do the switch if I wanted to.
Yeah, no, and that's hilarious.
I bet you come home to a clean house every day.
night, yeah.
One time, one of my kids was behaving bad, and I was like, Lorenzo, you know that I'm a pro fighter. Did you see what I did to that girl in the last fight?
I'll kick you through this wall.
I had to tell him, you be careful.
Yeah. My mom's Spanish, so I understand how you Latin women have to punish.
I'm gonna teep you into the next room if you're not careful.
Yeah, I might have been smacked in the mouth a few times, and she was a scary woman. I'm sure that's even scarier, like a Latin mom.
The chancleta.
Yeah. You're like, oh, okay, mama. I'll get good grades.
Yeah.
How old are your boys, if you don't mind?
6 and 7.
Oh, cool.
And they train martial arts and.
Awesome.
Okay, that's good. So I've got a 7-year-old daughter, and then my son's 3, and then another infant daughter. What age should I put? Because I want my son to do martial arts as well. But you like that age to have her in there?
My boys started at 2 because
wow.
we have
boys, right? You have 8 boys.
We have at our gym. We have like a pee-wee program where the parent gets to go with their children, and you get to they punch through paper.
Yeah, like a toddler.
And just get acquainted. They have their gis. They jump around the mats.
But at 7, are they throwing up arm bars and things? Doing more technical?
At 7, yeah, definitely. They're already.
My daughter's throwing up arm bars since she was born.
I'm very sure I could break any arm bar from your daughter.
For now.
She weighs like 20 pounds.
For now, she's 4. I would have her throw it up, and I would hang her and shake it, and she's holding it. And then I taught her to shrimp since she was a little baby, and I'd grab her feet and shrimp, 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 and she learned to do it. And then my wife was like, I hate you, because you try to change your diaper and she'd be stripping away and she's trying to catch her. And then my wife was like, literally, we would have to like put one leg on my daughter and hold her down, and like my wife would have to like take off her diaper because she's like shrimping out. Yeah. And they're like, jiu-jitsu works.
What's a bit, so to other parents, I mean, to be honest, I mean, I'm sure you get told a lot, but I mean, you're like Michelle Watterson, you know, just this fighter with kids. I mean, it's a lot to manage. Honestly, my wife can't even manage just watching the kids, and she doesn't do anything. But
it's okay. Our wives don't watch our show. So we can make fun of them as much as we want. They don't watch. They don't support us.
But what's it been like?
Are you watching? No.
What's it been
our
like?
Our parents don't even watch our show, actually.
What's it been like for watching, you know, you came to it at a much later age. What's it been like for you watching your boys get to do that? I'm sure you're not talking to other moms. They're putting their kids in soccer. Your kids are throwing up triangles. What's it been like?
It's a challenge, you know, I'm not going to lie. Because I had the hiatus, you know, I had my children and I stopped competing for that time. I still always trained, but then like, I think when my boys were old enough, I said, I'm not going to lose myself, you know? So that's when I took up my first kickboxing bat.
Like you didn't want to lose yourself.
Yeah,
like
I missed it. I wanted to, and then I said, you know, they're going to be a part of this. This is what I do, and I'm going to bring them into my world. I'm not going to change who I am or change what I do because of them. So I got, you know, back into training and fighting, and I would literally, like, when my baby, he was in the car seat, like, I would bring the car seat to the gym, put it on the ring, and he'd, like, take a nap while I was training, and I just, like, incorporated them into my lifestyle. So it is a challenge, absolutely, and fighting isn't, you know, you said you worked in construction. I'm a general contractor. I have a construction company.
Oh,
so
cool. Dang, you are a busy
I hope your husband doesn't watch this, because I think I'm falling in love.
Yeah, seriously.
It's a lot, you know, entrepreneur, wife, mother.
Yeah.
I try to be involved in school as much as possible. So, but incorporating everyone into my lifestyle, I literally moved like 2 minutes from the gym when I was house hunting, like, because I knew this was going to be a part of my life forever.
Love it.
So just making it work. Like when you want something, you're driven, you're motivated, like you're going to make it work.
Dude, that's amazing. Yeah. And it's like, I don't know, like we had some of these young guys on here, and how old were you when you had kids? Were you pretty?
30.
Okay. Like, and some of them I was 32 and I was 30 as well. And Kyle was a little bit younger.
I had my first kid when I was 24 years old.
24. Yeah, and like these kids that don't have the family, I'm like, they're just wild. They're up until 4, 6 a.m. They're telling us like, I don't go to bed until 6 a.m. Then I'm like, how are you training? How are you sleeping?
We wake up,
And like I've learned that, you know, having that stability has made me actually be able to like advance. Like, you know, the old saying of like, what, the kite can't fly without a string. And I feel,
Makes you disciplined.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you have to be able to incorporate your life, like I said, into the family life, and it gives you routine.
Like you can't sleep in, and no matter what, you have to go to bed early because your kids are up at 5:30, 6, whatever. My daughter's up early. Your kids are up early too, and no matter what, you're like, all right, I have to go home and sleep, whether I have training the next day or not, because I got to wake up. And I've like noticed these kids that don't sleep, they don't have the same recovery. They don't have the same discipline, and it kind of like falls into all aspects of their life while you're a very disciplined fighter. And do you feel like that's what's made you be undefeated? Because I mean, you found fighting later in life to be a later fighter and to be so successful.
And sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, it definitely helps. Like you said, it adds a little bit of discipline and routine. I mean, I've never been like wild and crazy. I've been working since I was 15. Like I've always been very by the book and. So
fighting is your wild. Is that your outlet in your life?
Yeah. That I can say fighting was like my wild and crazy. But going back to what you said, like having children, it does give you a routine. It keeps me disciplined. It does make it harder because, like you said, they're up at 6 a.m. I need to sleep in. I just got in from training at 10, 11 o'clock at night. So it's definitely a juggling act. But if you got the right mindset, if you're disciplined and you want to make it work, like I said before, you make it work.
Hell yeah!
So let's jump to that first. How many fights have you had in the promotion?
With BKFC, 2.
So the first one, you get in there, tell us about it, because I like to bring this up every time we're talking about BKFC, but Mike Tyson's famous quote, everybody's got a plan until you get hit in the mouth. This time you're getting hit in the mouth with a bare knuckles. What was that first fight like, and what was that first time taking a clean one to the face?
Like I said earlier, I had never even been in a street fight, other than the ring, other than my training with boxing gloves, MMA gloves. So that first punch definitely was like an moment.
Shit.
I was like, oh
like
my.
the first time ever being
that first punch I felt, I was like, whoa, that hurts.
Damn it.
Yeah, like, okay. And I was just like, I remember like I had a little bit of like a blurry vision because I think it nipped like the corner of my eye, and I was like, oh man, okay, this is it. This is serious, like hands up. Here we go.
Did you think like, oh, bitch?
Yeah. Did it piss you off? Like you want to hurt?
It didn't piss me off. It was just like a wake up call. Like this is serious. Like like all
time to dial in.
The training, can only get you to a certain point, but until you're in there and you're feeling those punches and your hands are hurting because you're trying to punch back, and obviously you don't have any gloves on, any protection, so it just gets really real quick.
Yeah. That's real quick.
And it just made me like, okay, hands up. Keep going. You have a plan. Do what you're gonna do, and let's make this quick and get out of here.
Get out of there. You know what's funny though? Like we had Luis just on, and we've had Mike Perry, and they're both like, "I want to bleed. I want to get in there." I'm like, "Don't you just finish him? Get out, bro."
Yeah, Mike Perry was like, I don't want to knock him out in the first round because I trained for months.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I'll be like so happy if I can put him out.
Right? Get me out of there, right? I was like, he's a crazy person. But they're all, I feel like every fighter.
I'd be worse than Luke Rockhold. He'd hit me, and I'd be like,
Yeah.
I pretend to get knocked out.
Break your teeth.
I'll tell you what, I'd call the mob. Hey, listen, just bet against me. I promise you, I'll be out first round.
Dude,
no problem.
Go bet on it.
So honest question. After the first one, how quick did you end that first one? Did you go the whole 5?
No, we went 3 rounds. She got cut on the second round with a jab to her forehead. She started bleeding. In the 3rd round, the doctor called it.
Opened it up. And that's such a big element with BKFCs. There's so many doctor stoppages because it's almost a strategy. I want to cut somebody open as quickly as possible because it's going to put them out.
Because you get a little cut. People just keep attacking it, and then all of a sudden it's big.
Yeah.
Like we were watching,
Drickus last night was nasty.
Drickus, yeah, that was nasty. But if they didn't have gloves on, that thing would have been
just
open.
Huge, yeah.
Like remember that one, that LJ guy's eye? Like,
huge.
Dude, nasty.
Looked
At
like roast
Salt
beef.
Lake. We were at the Salt Lake BKFC one, and one of the dudes had the most nastiest cut. And you're like,
so after the first one, honest question: did you seriously consider like not doing that again, or were you just like, oh, that was cool, let's do it again?
Well, during the recovery, after the fight, I obviously I was swollen. I didn't get cut, thank God, but I was like all bruised, swollen. My kids were a little scared the next day. You just wonder, like, is this for me? Is it not? So, but then after that, like, as soon as the swelling's down and I'm back in the gym, I'm like, yeah, let's go.
You never want to make decisions the next morning. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's when I retired. Was the next day. I was like, my last fight, it was a brutal one.
Out here looking like the elephant man.
Yeah,
oh my gosh. So tell us about your second fight.
My second fight, that was with Jocelyn Leiberger from UFC. And that one, she came in heavy. Like the weigh-ins kind of was where it started to, I don't have a lot of fight experience in BKFC. And as far as like, I've always made weight. But then when I went to weigh in, she was like, I don't know how many pounds it was, like 7-8 pounds heavier or something like that.
Dang.
A lot.
So that kind of started to get into my head a little bit, but
that's a big difference.
But then my coaches were like, "Don't worry about it. You're prepared. You're gonna run her over anyway." And I took the fight, and we did it. And although she was heavier, I think I broke her. I might have broken her mentally, like in the first round or so. She wasn't.
It's gonna feel so good, like when you see that you broke her, you're like, oh, cool, now I can just go to work.
Yeah, I just felt that she wasn't as active as I had seen in the past. But that was a fun fight. I really enjoyed that one. I already had my feet wet in the sport. I knew what to expect.
It wasn't your
it
first
It changes everything. Yeah.
Like for myself, I almost would rather break someone mentally and have their soul in your hand than just go out and get a knockout. But what would you rather, just go out and knock them out or knock her out?
Well, don't get me wrong. I'll take a knockout in BKFC. Like I said, I broke 2 fingers in that fight. It was just nonstop punching, 5 rounds.
What weight do you fight at?
125.
Because you're tall.
Yeah.
So a weight cut's got to be tougher because it's not like you're cutting much there. Is weight cutting typically pretty difficult on you, getting to 125?
It's not too bad, just because I'm like I said, I'm disciplined. It's been so long of just like working out, training, knowing how to manage my weight. I know what I can and can't do, so it's not too bad. It's always hard, I'm not gonna lie, because
sucks.
Yeah, it sucks.
Tell us about February 2nd. Who do you have, and what are you gonna do to her?
February 2nd, it is against Sydney Smith. She's coming up from 115 to 125.
She's 1-1, right?
She's 1-1.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're 2-0.
Yeah. The girl's got a lot of heart. I've seen her fights. She's gonna keep coming forward.
But I think you're significantly bigger.
Yeah,
don't you have a pretty good reach on her?
Well, she's taller.
Oh, she's taller.
Yeah.
Taller and at 115?
Yeah.
You're pretty tall. How tall are you?
I'm 5'6".
Oh, okay. Maybe you seem tall. You're
heels on.
Okay. So she's taller than you. She's coming up. Do you feel like the thing is, I asked Mike this one time. I said, do you feel like, because he's so much bigger than Eddie, right? I said, do you feel confident? He's like, I never want to say I'm feeling confident walking into something but how are you feeling walking into it with her?
I'm confident in my skills. I'm confident in my training and my coaches, with what I've been doing for months. I mean, I've been preparing for a long time. I never stopped training. I recovered from my fingers, from my surgeries. I went back to training. And even months before, I didn't know when they were going to give me the call for the next fight. So I've been training my butt off. Like, I never half-ass it. I'm always 100%. So I feel good about this. I feel ready. I watched her. I kind of know what her style is, and I'm prepared.
Love that. What do you think you're going to do to her in there? Do you think you're going to be out in the early rounds? Do you think you're going 5? You think you're going the 6th round, sudden death?
Man, I would love to get my first knockout.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be amazing.
That would be fun, right?
Well, talk to us. I mean, and we're getting close here, but tell us about the order. We love BKFC. We love Dave Feldman. We love everything they do for the sport. We love all the sponsors. This podcast is sponsored by Bucked Up, right? And we love everything that's happening in that organization.
Bucked Up's one of the lead sponsors
for
BKFC.
BKFC. Why this organization as opposed to, there's a bunch of bare knuckle organizations, even here in Miami? Why this one?
This one I see is definitely like, it has that foot forward, like it's growing rapidly. I see that they're getting out there, they're treating their fighters right, they're getting that marketing, that exposure, and I see that it's definitely growing at a rapid rate, faster than any of the others that I see. I think what they've done in just the last few years that they've been established, you can see their growth and see that they're going places. They have big names coming in. They, like you said, Perry. I think
Alvarez.
Alvarez. They're like trying to bring Cyborg into the
Yeah, that would be dope, right?
I would advise you to stay away from that one.
Yeah, she's big. Yeah. She's like 20 pounds bigger than you. Yeah. Right?
I think BKFC is definitely doing something right. And I think everyone's noticing it. So.
What about the rumor is Paige comes back.
Oh, I would love that.
Yeah, because she's at your weight. You guys are about 25 pounders. You would love that one?
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Awesome. Well, you have anyone you want to shout out and thank?
And tell us your social media, your people. Tell us where we can find you.
Okay, social media on Instagram. You can find me at ChristyFitMMA. Shout out to my gym, Freestyle Fighting Academy, FFA. That's where I train with Coach Edgard and Master Marcos. And to El Toro Loco MMA. They are my management team.
Oh, awesome.
They've been great to me as well. And to BKFC, because honestly, they gave me a shot, gave me an opportunity, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them.
Awesome.
I'll tell you honestly.
My family, I can't husband and kids.
Of course. Yeah, that's number one.
And my God, because, I'm a woman of faith, and I know that these opportunities wouldn't even have been here if it wasn't because of that.
I'll tell you, this has been incredibly fun. I've only fell in love with one guest more than you. That's Dricus Duplessis, because he's the most beautiful man on earth. Thanks for coming on. We're super excited to see you go whoop some ass. So thanks for tuning in, guys. February 2nd, come watch this incredible woman whoop some ass.
Thank you, guys.
Awesome. The Coach and the Casual Miami edition is back. We have current undefeated BKFC fighter Edgard Plazaola. He's fighting February 2nd in Miami at the Hard Rock. And let's get this started. This episode's brought to you by Bucked Up. Let's go.
man, Edgar, honestly, we are glad to have you. I'll tell you why. Because we've had a lot of fighters, but I don't think we've had one as dressed sharply as you. You look good.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You know what they say? I mean, I don't remember who said it, but if it's important to you, I believe, that you got to dress for it.
Yeah, dude.
Like, you go to a wedding, that's like an important event. You go with a tuxedo,
Oh, my God.
Like, exactly. Church is important for me. I go dressed up properly, and something, these events and these interviews, and thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so glad to have you. Dude, honestly, we love, because we deal with UFC fighters, we deal with local MMA fighters, but we love being with BKFC guys because all of you guys are just, I mean, here's been the tough part for me because we had Christine, we've had Mike, we've had Luis. I mean, we've had all these guys. The problem I always have, because I grew up watching fighting, I love fighting, right? But the problem I always have is when you watch them, you're like, yeah, kick his ass, do this. But lately, since I've been meeting everybody, I'm like, oh, I don't want him to fight. Don't fight. He's a good guy. Don't do it. How is it for you? Because you're a coach. Huh?
Yes.
And shout out your gym. Tell us.
Freestyle Fighting Academy. If you're around the Miami area, don't forget to check us out. We right across FIU, and we are open 24 hours, 7 days a week.
Oh, really?
Yes, we are one of the oldest facility. It's about to be 21 years, I believe, in the San location.
Wow, congratulations. As a gym owner, I know how hard that
Well, actually, I'm the head instructor, Marcos Avalon, my coach, my mentor. He's the owner, CEO, the founder, and I just, love being part of the family,
Yeah, I mean, that takes a whole team to have something that special. I mean, that's really impressive at 21
Absolutely,
years.
We offer 30 days free trial, nothing to pay, nothing to sign.
That's a long free
we
trial.
have programs for everyone, like starting at 2 years old, and we just recently have a 40 and over year old program, a little more look impact Jiu-Jitsu, because we just want everyone to take benefits of martial arts,
Well, we do that at our gym, and we have a geriatric jiu-jitsu is what I call it.
Nice.
But all I had to do is put it at 7 a.m. No young kids come in. Only the 40 in the morning. It's all business professionals. Kyle come through that one. Yeah, sometimes. But that one, literally, there's never one.
Yeah, we have a Saturdays 9 a.m. I guess, for the same reason as well.
But then the 7:30, 8:30 night ones, there's all these young kids trying to kill each other. I never roll that one anymore. I'm like,
Yeah.
You know what's so interesting about you, Edgar, though, is that everybody loves it, but we deal with a lot of really hardened dudes. But with you, it's obvious that you've got such a passion for the sport and for fighting. Where was that passion for fighting born for you?
How can I say? I guess my first passion was fighting, and then that developed into being a martial artist. I guess like a lot of us, I was a tough young kid getting in a lot of troubles.
Nicaragua.
I'm from Nicaragua, so you better know how to throw down over there. And since younger, I was always throwing it down. I always remember.
Isn't that where the young kids they have what do they call it? And they hide their stuff and they sell random things in Nicaragua, the young kids. And
listen, that's just one of many things.
I have a friend, and that's what he was telling me. He was as growing up, he's I would have to hide all my money, and then he's but everyone knows the kids that sell. So then people come and beat you up, and then he's you gotta learn how to fight,
But there, and just kind of testing each other's out, literally just games will become into fight, somebody teasing someone in the middle, they will be I dare you to spit over here. I was sitting up, and somebody else was standing right there, and spit here, spit here. They speak and move their hand, and they go to the other. So you get my point, right? And then boom, straight fight, because the other guy is kind of I'm not gonna move. I dare you, because you know what he's really trying to do. So.
Yeah. So then you started doing in the MMA, right?
Yes.
And where you started with jiu-jitsu?
No, I actually started with MMA. I started right where I'm at right now at the Freestyle Fighting Academy. I walked in, honestly, because it was the only facility that I found that I was 24 hours. But then I fell in love with it, and I learned how to throw my first proper punch there, my first takedown.
How old were you?
And I took over there. I was 21, just turned 21 years old.
Yeah.
I feel that the advantage I had is that I was blessed, I would say, with the opportunity. My mentor, he offered me I would say like a full sponsorship, right? He offered me living, training for free at the gym and everything. The only thing I needed to do was clock in twice a day training, mandatory. If I was hurt, I needed to sit down and watch practice. And I lived my life for like 8 years like that, so that gave me the advantage.
And they sponsored you and you just got
yes, everything, exactly.
I would like. You think he saw something in you? Why do you think that was?
I think so, yeah. Like at that moment, he used to have like a program that he called it the Fighter House program, where he used to like have a house that he would like basically, if he would see a talent, they would be worth it, like a potential UFC champion, he would like get that opportunity.
That's awesome.
And I wasn't the only one, like Jason Suarez, one of my coaches as well and good friends was part of it as well. And well, he retired, like 15 and all, and like doing really good. So yeah, like I guess that's what he wanted. He wanted to have a crew that all we could like think, speed, and do was martial arts. Like he wanted like literally, like put us into a building that it would become our obsession, and that would be our only drive. Like I would work at the gym, I would train at the gym, I would get to the fighter house to speak with my training partners about
and all
the
you do
session.
at night is you watch fights.
Yeah, we would watch fight, we would study.
And you're like, hey, you did this in sparring.
Exactly, and like we would like prepare for like we would all teach classes, so we like prepare for coaching and stuff. Like, so it becomes something that you become really good, like because it becomes your only thing.
You think so? This is what awesome. Like Ramsey will talk about it a lot, but a lot of fighters talk about is that fighting for a lot of guys becomes an escape. Do you feel like it was an escape, or do you feel like it was a passion for you? Were you escaping something that saved you, or do you think you just found it and it was a passion because you found it so much later in life?
It was a passion, honestly. I took a huge risk, actually. Before this, I was working in the restaurant business, and I started as a busboy very young in the same restaurant, and I worked my way up all the way until I became general manager, like 4 years later. Wow. So I was very
you worked your way up to a very good job.
I was very young, and I have a very stable job, like I already have plans of, like
and
saving
to run
my restaurant. Yeah,
I know, like a Miami restaurant GM is like a big...
Yeah, and I found this passion, I found this opportunity. It's like even leave it all and move into this, and start from zero, or like continue doing it as a hobby. I'm like, no, I'm gonna be the next world champion. So
awesome.
I go all in. I burn all the bridges.
Well, it's a good thing you met your wife after you decided that, because before she'd say, hell no.
Yes, exactly. No, absolutely.
Yeah, that'd be a rough conversation. So I'm leaving our stable, successful job. I'm gonna chase something that's probably not gonna be stable.
No, yes. I was actually in a relationship at that point, and it definitely didn't work out. That's exactly how it went down.
I feel that, That's hilarious. Yeah, I mean, fighting takes everything.
Yeah.
As you can, attest to, it takes obsession. It's not like, hey, I'm gonna show up. You got to be in the gym 2 or 3 hours, and every day 4 hours, 5 hours. You go home, you're watching footage. I would record myself. I would go home, watch my whole hour of training.
Like I say, it's an obsession. It becomes something that it's you, and you don't know how to like be any different.
Yeah. I wouldn't rather do anything else. And even, we've been talking with this Sneeko. He's an influencer, and part of the reason we're out here is to help him train. And he's a 25-year-old kid, parties. He's like famous online and stuff. We're all a little older, so we don't really know much about it. But he's been talking about it. He's like, well, on a Friday night, he's like, it's so much better to go to the gym than to go out drinking, get high, and do all these things, because it's like more rewarding. And I was like,
absolutely.
I feel like I lived a more like fulfilled life through my 20s compared to someone that would just go out and, I don't know, you feel the same way?
Absolutely. I always say that the only thing that I guess I regret about my career is not being able to start soon, because I did feel I started, like late, and that's why, like now more than ever, I'm one of those that really want to encourage everyone. Like parents ask me, how soon should I start my kids?
Now.
Man, the sooner the better.
Yeah, the sooner the
Doesn't
better.
matter if they just, like, like I say, throwing punches through papers, they fall in love with the sport first, and once
And
they
just
fall
have
in love
fun
with the
at the
sport,
gym.
they're having fun before it becomes a habit.
Yeah.
Then eventually, when they become bigger, it's not even an option. They already see it like a kind of like going to school.
Part of
Yeah,
their life.
no,
You know,
that's
like-
where I am. Like, because I started young, and it's always been an outlet. Like, if I don't train, I don't feel good. You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like myself. And if I was a kid and 16, 17, going through high school drama or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, I would, instead of being like, I'm gonna go to my room and I'm gonna go train at the gym, and I'd get mad, whatever my high school drama shit
Yeah.
was. And it always gave me something to do compared to having nothing to do.
How does it, because you've dealt with some, as a coach, I always like having another coach on the podcast with Ramsey. Ramsey's a coach to a lot of incredible fighters. I've seen them, and I've seen his passion for it and what he does. But how does it, for you as a coach, I always like to kind of understand coaching philosophies. Like, you've dealt with some world-class fighters, some incredible fighters, kids that come in and just get it. How do you then have the patience to deal with the kids that don't just get it right off the bat? Somebody saw something in you early. What happens when a kid comes in and you don't necessarily see it early?
Like, they have 2 left feet.
Yeah. How do you deal with those kind of
My philosophy, honestly, is, as long as I'm making them come back, I'm always going to have another chance to correct those things. Because, there's a lot of coaches, we call it the old school mentality. That, like you say, like maybe they don't get it right the first time, you correct them. You had to. They don't get it right the second time, they correct them again. But then they start getting that frustration. So what happens is the more that you like, no, you're not getting it right. It's this way. No, you're not getting it that. In a whole class, what happens is, like they start feeling like, man, this thing is not for me. Like this coach is like frustrated and I still not getting it.
He's on my ass.
So like the Otto's thing goes down, so most likely they're gonna like quit. Maybe not right away, but probably next week or the first time that they have a rough session, they done. So what I always try to do is be patient. If they don't get it this class, I know they're gonna get it the next one. If they don't get it the next one next month, but if they keep showing up to train, there's no way they're not gonna get better.
Like, when you're training kids, are you more focused on having fun, like making a positive experience, or are you more like, we gotta learn the martial art?
I guess, it goes through stages, like, for example, when it's always about structure. No matter how young they are, martial arts needs to have structure. They need to know that it's not just a playground place that they go and they're gonna be running away. They know they need to, like, listen to the coach, focus time, all those stuff.
Walk in, put your shoes
But
here.
for example, we have the little ninjas, the little ones, they need to have fun.
Yeah.
Like I say, that's the stage that I want all the kids to fall in love with martial arts. But then, once they're turning like 7, 8 years old, there has to be like a character development where we need to start like teaching them, like to work hard, be disciplined, and all those
Experience
things as well.
the trials of martial arts.
Exactly.
Like, you're
They
getting
can
beat up.
like overcoming, obstacles.
Yeah.
That's the time that I encourage them to compete. for
Tough
that
days,
reason as well.
like if a kid has a bad day and they're like, well, I don't feel like training, you make them train.
Yes,
But
exactly.
back to your question though, like for me as a coach, you want the kid that's the next UFC champ for sure, because that's fun and cool. But I feel like the kid that has 2 left feet that can't figure it out actually gets more out of doing martial arts than the natural athlete. Like the kid that has to spend time, have to work harder, he like learns how to learn at anything. And I think martial arts is the most difficult thing you can do. And so I think it gives them an ability to like figure out how to.
And I think that the reward is bigger. Probably you like.
Yeah,
the reward is bigger because it's the other thing, like for example, like that's with kids, but with fighters, right? It's the same idea. The whole gym or the whole program for us, we want to believe that we don't want to make martial arts for the tough one, like, because, if you're already tough, great, do martial arts, but you tough already.
Yeah.
We want to make martial arts for those that are not tough, like, and, like, exactly, and make those people, tough. So I get more reward out of, like, finding that guy, like, that is a little intimidated about fighting, about martial arts, that, you know, it's a little awkward and stuff, and, you know, embracing to him, you know, like that mental and physical strength, you know, I think the reward is a lot bigger.
You know, I think there's a lot of world-class fighters in the world, of course, but the best coaches are the ones that, yeah, they're great fighters. I mean, you guys are both great fighters, but it's the heart of a teacher, wanting to instill that in somebody and getting that gratification. Because
well, it's just like most people aren't going to be like, you know, you can have line up 100 kids and not even one of them is going to be, you know, the next level of an athlete, you know.
Exactly.
So out of 100 kids, 200 kids in your gym, over like 3 years, you might get one kid that, all right, that kid's it. But for the most part, most people are calm. And then I've also learned that like the parents that really push their kids, they're like, they push them out of it, you know, and then like, while the kid that, you know, isn't pushed as hard, and it's more of like a fun environment, and they want to work hard at the gym compared to the parents like, get your ass in there and train, you know.
That's why I try to, like, you know, like, of course, you know, if we got the next world champion in our school, will be great, will be amazing, but, you know, in reality, we're trying to build champions in life from all of them, you know, and not just trying just to look for that one talent, you know, like, so like I said, we want to make sure that everybody, you know, like, build that good character all the time.
Well, let's talk about this then. Obviously, Edgar, I mean, you're an excited man. I mean, you just come off as kind and excited and the heart of a teacher. How do you then create a side of violence? Because when you're in the ring, you must be a man of violence. You have to be.
You had to.
Where does that come from? Because it doesn't come through when you're talking.
Yeah, right. Yeah. The nicest person
the
I've
nicest
met.
dude I've ever met. I don't want him to.
I'm trying to.
Every fighter has a twitch. I don't really say your
When I'm
twitch.
next to Mike Perry, I'm like, oh, I don't want to say anything that'll make him hurt me. But you, I'm like, oh, I want to, you know.
I don't want to offend you because you're so nice,
I want to
bro.
my
It's
problems.
funny you mentioned this question, and I think, you know, like the other day I wake up, you know, like thinking about just this, and I found the answer. You know, actually, I was praying, and it's balance. For me, it's balance. You know, like when I was, you know, in my 20s and young, I used to relay a lot on violence, because, like I say, I need to be violent on my training. Violence, fighting is very a violent sport and violent environment. But why should I be in that stage of mind all the time? You know, like I shouldn't be in chaos. So I try to keep a balance all the time, you know, like, so finding God in my life has helped me a lot, because in that sense, I'm able to have my peace, you know, as a human being, but I also know how to switch it on right away. I still had that violence, since I know how to shut it on and off, I guess, you know, when it's on, it's on.
Oh, yeah. That's
When
awesome.
it's on, it's on. And that's why, you know, like, I want to be able to shut it off as well.
I saw it. I just saw the twitch.
Yeah,
I just saw it. Right? I just saw it.
When he said thumbs up, I actually got a little scared.
I was like, he enjoys the violence.
Actually, this is kind of like, what is it? We are less than 2 weeks far from fight.
Yeah.
This is when the dream killers start coming up. This is when it start getting on.
You take
you
your
know,
wife,
like,
hey, stay out of the way for the next couple of weeks.
She kind of like know already, you know, like that she needs to be a little more patient, because it is. It's. I always trying to, once again, the last thing that I want to do is trying to like bring any anger or anything home. You know, I had 2 little girls as well that I love with all my heart. Yes. And, you know, they just melt my heart as soon as I get home. So, you know, I guess that's another thing that it helps me to, you know, like kind of
it's like if you raise your voice in your house and you got a girl. Then
I'm so sorry for those 2 girls' boyfriends one day. It's
You know, as long as he's nice, right? As long as
absolutely.
That's all you care about. So what brought you? You did MMA.
Yes.
And where were you fighting with MMA?
I used to fight local promotions, fight time promotions will be the ones that we do in pro, you know, and the amateurs, I don't even remember.
You don't remember, yeah. So then what was the transition to BKFC? Like, did someone call you, or you're like, I want to do this?
So, honest, to be true, I was very inactive before BKFC, you know, like I was kind of like I never say I was retired from MMA competition, training always, right? Because I'm a coach, so I always got to stay actively training, learning. But for competing, I was very inactive for a long period of time. First, it started because of injuries, but then the injuries healed. but then it wasn't like a good drive for it, you know, fighting in local,
feel it, yeah.
fighting in local shows. I started having a family as well, you know, and fighting in local shows, you know.
No
it's
money.
No money, exactly.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, fighting is an investment, you know. It's an investment of time, your health, your body.
Money too, you gotta
Training.
buy everything.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an investment in all sense. So basically, you know, like when you have a family to afford, fighting become a luxury when you're fighting like just locally, right?
Yeah.
The only hope on MMA is, you know, like getting the call from the big shows, from the UFC.
And even then, bro, it's still, I mean, as myself, I
Yeah.
fought there. It wasn't like I was able to build my persona, but it's not like you're building your actual bank account, you know?
Exactly.
Like, you're barely getting by. Even if you make, like, let's say you start making more money, like the bigger checks, but then your camps start to get more expensive because you're fighting tougher guys,
Yeah,
you know? Like, you need
exactly.
to start paying. And so it was just kind of,
So,
like,
yeah.
BKFC kind of freed you up a little bit.
No, so then what happened is that my manager, you know, like he always believed in me, you know, like my coaches always believe in me. They always see how hard how hard I work all the time, even when I wasn't competing. And they brought to me the idea, you know, like, what do you think about BKFC? And they invited me, you know, like Chef Aldo, you know, like my manager from El Toro Loco MMA, invited me to one BKFC show, and I saw it live, really close. I hear the sounds of the punches, clack, clack, clack.
What did you think when you heard those things?
I was like, man, I had to do this.
Oh my
That
gosh,
was-
you're
I
crazy,
had
dude.
to do
great
this.
for me.
I saw the speed on the fights, you know, because it's 2-minute rounds, so it's
Bro,
a lot
yeah.
of action at the beginning. I saw the speed, the adrenaline. I was like, oh, I had to do that.
I went to a
Think about
BKFC.
this, you know, I was kind of like, once again, the fire went on again, and I was like, let's go. You know,
I went to a
and that's
BKFC
it.
fight and I said, this is terrible. I never want to do it.
For me, I'm always being, you know, attracted to doing extraordinary things, you know.
Yeah.
Look, listen, MMA is kind of like a common thing if you think about it, you know. Like, it's not, before I remember when I started doing this, you know, like people were like, oh,
What do you
fight
do?
MMA?
Yeah.
Oh, you do MMA, right? I see you.
I remember being a young single man having to explain to girls, I'm like, I'm in the UFC.
Oh,
and they're like, what's that? And I'd be like, Google it. And I would do this whole thing, but nowadays, like, it's different. Like, they're like, you're a UFC fighter.
Now it goes, oh, you fight MMA? I do MMA too, and everybody does MMA.
Oh,
you know?
yeah, everyone
But now
does.
when I say, oh yeah, I do bare knuckle fighting, I do BKFC, now they again say like, oh, you do BKFC? You
What
do-
about bare knuckle MMA? Would you be down for that, or are you just kind of over
That sounds horrible.
Like,
Like,
are
that's
you-
like UFC 1 where there was
Let me put it this way. Right now, I'm very happy where I'm at. You know,
Yeah.
like if the opportunity comes, sure, you know. But I feel that, you know, BKFC is in the right path right now, going at the speed that it's going. So let me put it this way. I feel that for when it comes to the bare knuckle business, it's like I'm in the peak promotion
Yeah.
already. So anything else,
like
I
the
would be.
UFC, early UFC days? you know?
Exactly, correct. You know, and I honestly want people to remember my name. I want my name to be a legacy. So, like you mentioned, early UFC, I want, you know, years from now, people looking back, oh, BKFC, you know, like, and see highlights of me.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
like,
dope.
Here's a question. So,
Like Edgar Plazaola, he was the one of
On
Bonds.
how do you say it? Like Frankie Edgar, you know,
Yeah.
that was inducted into the
Oh,
Hall of
yeah.
Fame. Edgar Plazaola inducted into, you know, like the
Yeah,
BKFC
BSC
Hall of Fame, you know,
yeah.
like,
Hell
definitely.
yeah.
so I always like to ask this. Your first UFC fight or BKFC fight, you've had one now. The first time you feel those bare knuckles hit your face, what do you think?
I didn't feel much of, you know, like different deal, you know, like I feel like I getting punched, you know, like with small, I guess, you know, like all the years of experience getting punched with the little 4-ounce
Yeah.
gloves, you know, like first punch I got punched, you know, like I feel right away, you know, my eye going a little, you know, but it's something that I felt before too, you know.
Yeah, I
like,
mean, you get punched with those little
yeah,
guys. It's like
then,
busting my nose up with a javelin. time, you know?
exactly. Honestly, it didn't shock me as much. It didn't shock me that much.
Did you
as
street
I-
fight
as
like
I
at
thought.
all growing up?
Yeah,
Okay.
that too, you know, I guess, you know, like.
It wasn't your first time.
It
wasn't
wasn't,
your
no,
first
like I
rodeo.
said, I got in a lot of troubles younger. I used to
I
like
knew
fight
it.
a lot.
There's
at
that
school.
twitch,
So maybe
dude.
that's why, because people ask me, because I guess, you know, it is like a big deal, but it's kind of like something I've been kicked before,
Yeah.
you know, in the face.
Yeah.
And,
Kneed in the head, yeah.
Exactly. I've been knee in the head, correct. And it's no difference, like the only difference, more open for cuts, but I've been cut before in training as well.
Yeah,
so.
and your face, you feel like it gets kind of leathery, kind of used to it, where it doesn't cut easy.
I feel that you roll with the punches too as well a lot, at least me, like that's my style. My style.
I'm trying to recall, but you weren't very bloody your last fight, right?
No.
You kind of...
Well, the fight, I have a very shot on my social media because I do look a little bit because I did get cut
like right there on the forehead.
But it's
that's a very common cut right here.
It is a very common cut because, like a lot of times, like you just got to duck your head down too.
Yeah, like from the jab.
Or maybe you blocking and since it's not gloves, those punches go right between the guard. But I rather get cut in the head, than in the eyes or getting click on the chin. But yeah, I was bloody, but it's kind of like, that's kind of like what pulled the trigger on me, that urgency. Because that's the thing about BKFC. You might be the better fighter, but you get cut, and that's all it is.
There's so many doctor stoppages.
Well, that's what Luis, Palomino, the champ, was talking to us about. He was saying, he's like, you got to have that dog, and you got to be technical.
Exactly.
You can't have just one or the other in BKFC. He's like, you got to be able to do both, and it's a dog fight. What weight do you fight at?
145.
145 as well?
Yes,
so
sir.
you're in the same weight class as Kai?
Yes.
Yeah. What do you think would happen if you and him fought?
It's going to be a tough fight. It would be a very entertaining fight. He's a wrestler. My background is MMA, but, like, my coaches, their background is wrestling. So
but he's a big boy, too. He's big.
Man, all those 145 are big,
we were at his last fight when he fought Howard Davis. And he looked big and strong out there.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a legit champ, and he's a...
He is. He's a good wrestler, very good, a lot of pressure. And the good thing is, like that's the medicine for boxers. That's why, he come and talk with this guy Howard, and there was another way to fight. I think, a fight with him will be a tough, clinch fight.
How would you deal with like an HD, a Howard Davis, so tall? And you're shorter than him. How would you deal with that?
I think I did the right thing, just like that. Clinch him in, to get his arms, slower and cut his movement, and most important, catching him on the way in, catching him on the way out the clinch. Because he's a super fast guy, very long, so I definitely you need to be in there.
So talk to us about February 2nd. Then who are you fighting, and tell us how it's gonna go.
I'm fighting Derek Gates. I believe that he's a very explosive fighter. He come charge forward. He doesn't care much. So definitely my plan is stop him. Stop him. He's gonna run into a wall because definitely I have very good defense. I don't mind getting punched.
And he's 1-1, right?
No, he actually has a couple of fights. Doesn't have the best record, but he has a lot of fights on BKFC. He coming from a win.
he's coming off his win.
Exactly.
But his record's about to get one worse, huh?
Yes, absolutely. Definitely, he's going back to the losing record.
You hate this. It's hard to end the streak after one fight, but
sorry, buddy. So February 2nd, give us a little promo. What's happening that day?
February 2nd, come watch me put another man down. Hear my words, we're looking for a quick finish, and don't forget, to check out. Don't forget the name, Edgar, the Dream Killer Plazaola, certified finisher.
Hell yeah.
Shout out, where can we find you on social media?
You guys can find me on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook by my name, Edgar Plazaola, _Dream Kill 3R. And as well, like I mentioned before, if you're in the Miami area, we are at the Freestyle Fighting Academy right across FIU. We open 24 hours, 7 days a week. Come and visit us. I want to give a huge shout out, to my team, my sponsors, El Toro Loco Churrasqueria, the best restaurant in Miami, El Toro Loco MMA, my management team, and Chef Aldo, BKFC for giving me the chance, of course, to show my talent, to show my skills, to my family, my number one supporters, of course, and to my Jesus Lord.
Love that. Beautiful. Awesome. We're freaking pumped.
Dude, you're freaking awesome. Can't wait for those fights, man.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, guys, for tuning in to Edgar Plazaola, a good man and a man of violence. Come watch him do it February 2nd, Hard Rock Hotel.
Hell yeah, dude. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming, bro.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into The Coach and the Casual. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, and share it with your friends. Thanks again.